And good afternoon, producer Susan. How's your week been?
Chilly.
Chilly, chilly? Not
Chi-
minus 41 like they had up in North Dakota today, did you?
It's currently 9 degrees.
Nine? What's it gonna go down to tonight?
Probably in the negatives.
By the way, yeah, when I was living in Syracuse for a couple years, we had a week where it was going down to minus 25 every night, and it never got above zero the entire week.
We had
And
a week like that in January.
well, I'm sorry.
There was a week like that in
Yeah,
January.
it just sucks. That's why we finally decided to move the hell out of Syracuse. Just
You
couldn't
know,
take.
I will never complain about the cold because I'd rather have it be cold than too hot. But I have to say, it's been a brutal winter.
Well, so far here, I've only had to use my snowblower twice, and that was just for like 2 inches of
Well,
snow.
that's
So,
the thing. I'm tired of all this icy, slushy crap. I want snow. Like,
yeah,
snow.
yeah, I'd like to get one good snowstorm
Yeah,
before.
we haven't had a good snowstorm.
I know, I know. All right, well, maybe. Well, we're not going to see any here this week. How about you?
Not like an inch. We're getting like 1 or 2 inches. My backyard is all ice. All the what little snow we've gotten have frozen over, and the poor. So I live on a mountain, so my backyard's a little bit of a slope, and the poor dog every time he squats to poop, he slides down the mountain.
Poor dog, get him.
There was one day he literally protested and refused to poop because he was tired of sliding down the mountain.
All right, well, let's hope you either get some snow or some warm weather to get rid of your ice. All right. Hey, you want to hear what we're going to try to talk about today?
Yeah, what's on the agenda?
Well, today's February 18th. We're coming up. This is week 4 of the Trump presidency, and boy, oh boy, do we still have a lot to talk about again this week. Our quote of the week is from French economist Frederic Bastiat, who died in 1850. So this quote is 175 years old, but I think it's just as true today as it was then. In our stupidest thing I've heard all week, we'll tell you why the hysteria over the six-person DOGE team possibly having access to your Social Security number is ridiculous. Have you heard any of that? Well,
Yeah.
they don't have why, it's we can't let them see our Social Security. I'm going to tell you how many people have your Social Security number and why they're worried about the six-person MIT grads being able to see your Social Security number. We'll tell you about the stunning, and I mean absolutely stunning drop in the number of southern border encounters, southern border crossings that President Trump has achieved with no new border funding, no new border agents, and no change in U.S. immigration law, something that President Biden said couldn't be done. And the change is dramatic. And I'll tell you what that new number is, what the old number was, and what the new number is. We'll tell you about the latest car attack that where 30 people were injured by a guy driving his car into a crowd, and this guy was a so-called asylum seeker. He was a foreign national, and we'll tell you where that happened. And this is, remember New Orleans last month, just before,
Yeah, right. Yep, right before
yeah,
the Super
killed
Bowl.
14 people. Well, we have another one. This one's not in the U.S., but we'll tell you where this one happened. We'll play a satirical clip of the difference between what happens if you're a Republican and you tell a fellow Republican that you decide to change your political parties, and what happens if you're a Democrat and you tell your Democrat friend that you're going to become a Republican. It's kind of a satirical clip on the difference of how the people react. Um, we'll tell you an interesting study, and this is a well-respected peer-reviewed study that found that liberal women are far less happy than their conservative counterparts, and why? Unhappy and lonely, by the way, than their conservative counterparts, and why? In our science minute, we'll tell you who and where a sustained 40-minute fusion reaction was achieved, paving the way for a new generation of limitless clean energy. If you don't know what a fusion reaction is, we'll explain that to you and tell you why it's so exciting. Time permitting, this was probably before your time, but when I was growing up, there used to be a game called lawn darts. You ever heard of it?
Yeah, I think it's outlawed now.
It has been, yeah, because these were spikes, these are like darts that you would throw up in the air and try to get them to land inside like a hula hoop circle. So it was like, lawn darts. So instead of throwing them at a dartboard on the wall, these things were about, oh, they were probably a foot long, and big, heavy, and you'd throw them in an arc and try to get them to uh, land in this hula hoop sized target, maybe 30 feet away. Well, some kids got stabbed by them. They came down, hit him in the head and stuff. So they were outlawed. But we'll tell you, we have a clip of a woman saying she wants President Trump to make lawn darts legal again. And our taxpayer relief shot this week comes to us from Detroit, where a woman's brother shoots and kills her armed and violent ex-boyfriend. And wasn't she lucky that her brother was there with a gun? Anyway, so here's our quote of the week by economist Frederic Bastiat, died 1850. And think about how true this is today when it was 175 years ago. And he said then, of course, this is translated from the French. He said, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. Now, can you relate to that 150-year-old quote with what's going
Yeah.
on today?
Yeah.
So again, so we have all these people going to Congress. They go in making $170,000 a year and they come out worth millions and millions of dollars.
Mhm.
Bernie Sanders is worth several million dollars.
Yeah.
Um, and there are very few people in Congress who have been there more than 5 years who aren't millionaires. So again, the quote is, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. Let me go back. When Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and people were looking for favors from Hillary,
Mhm.
they would hire Bill Clinton to give a 90-minute speech. Do you remember what Bill Clinton would get for a 90-minute speech?
Oh, several $1,000s. Like, oh, it was a
$500,000.
500. I thought it was 100,000.
$500,000. That was clearly bribery. There's nothing that Bill Clinton could say that's worth $500,000.
Mhm.
But he was getting speaking engagement after speaking engagement where they would pay him 500, they would fly him first class, sometimes on a private jet, pay him 500,000 to give him a 90-minute speech, which by the way, nobody can remember. These weren't big, these were like private groups like, Bear Stearns or Chase or, some private banking group or what's the name of the big Wall Street firm? They would have him come and speak to like a group of 40 of their executives for 90 minutes and pay him $500,000. That was clearly bribery, but nobody ever said a word. And that's how it works. Anyway, so that's our quote of the week. Anyway, stupidest thing I've heard all week. Have you heard any of this? People wailing and now, oh, the DOGE people, they're looking at my social security number.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you know how many people? I took about a minute to scribble down all the people. You want to take a guess how many people have your access to your social security number?
Dozens, sadly.
Right. And let's start with, I assume you have a bank account somewhere, right?
Yep. Yep.
You ever go into the bank, cash a check, deposit a check, you ever go in?
Yep.
And some of the clerks behind the counter are like 22, 23 years old.
Yep.
Every one of those clerks can see your social security number. Every
Yep.
single one of them. So here's the list. My bank, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the college that I graduated from, the New Jersey Department of Wildlife that issued my hunting license, all of my previous employers, every car dealership that ever financed the car that I bought, my mortgage company, my insurance company, every gun store that ever sold me a gun, every clerk in the firm that manages my retirement account, and the online stock trading company that I used to buy and sell stocks on my own.
Mhm.
And that's not all of them. So, uh, so why, if all those people and all the people who work for them have access to my surety, why should I be so excited if six MIT grads can also see it? That's just six more names added to a very long list of people.
Yeah.
So it's just that's why I think it's so stupid that people are screaming and wailing. This is outrageous. This has to stop. He can't see my social security number. Well, get in line because there's at least 100. I'm willing to bet money that if you take all the employees of all the employees of your bank, the motor. By the way, any clerk in your motor vehicle department can see your social security number too.
Yep.
Every clerk in your mortgage company, every if you bought a car, the salesman and the salesman and the finance guy all can see your social security number. So grow up. Not a big deal. All right. Last year, in the fourth quarter of last year, do you remember how many what they call them border encounters? This is where customs and immigration would encounter people coming across the border illegally. Do you remember what that number was roughly per month?
Oh, it was thousands.
200,000 a month, which is
Yeah.
roughly roughly 7,000 a day. And when Biden was challenged, through his press secretary, Kareem Jean-Pierre, she kept insisting that he's done all he can, and without additional funding and changes to our immigration laws, there's nothing President Biden can do to reduce that, to significantly reduce that number. Well, yesterday, Tom Homan, our new border czar, announced he gave the report for the number of border encounters on our southern border on Sunday. Did you hear what that number was?
No.
Try 229,
Mm,
down from 7,000 to 229.
wow.
Not 2,029, 229. That is a 99.5% reduction. And President Trump did that with no new border funding, no new border agents, and no change in our immigration law. I think that's just stunning.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Now, again, and part of what he did too is he got the president of Mexico through hardball negotiation. He got the president of Mexico to agree to put 10,000 troops on our southern border, 10,000 Mexican troops on their side of the border to turn back migrants. So that was a big part of it. But that's something Biden never even tried to do. So to go from 7,000 a day to 229 a day is a stunning, stunning reduction, something that Biden said couldn't be done, and Trump did it in 4 weeks. So I'm just, you tell people that they won't believe you.
Yeah.
And by the way, the press, other than Fox News, I checked, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, none of them, not one of them reported that piece of astounding news. It was a news blackout. So you talk about media bias, the media, other than Fox, is not reporting that. Now, you want to move on to the car attack?
Yes. I
All right.
didn't
So
hear
remember
about
New
it.
Orleans, 30 people, 37 hit, 14 dead,
Yeah.
several still in intensive care. Well, in Munich last week, an Afghan national who arrived in Germany as a declared asylum seeker decided he was going to take his car and drive it into a crowd of people in Munich. They were a street fair, drove it right smack into the crowd, injuring 30, some still in critical condition. Did you hear about that on the national
I
news?
didn't.
Well, that's another one. By the way, the same thing happened in Germany last month. Didn't we talk about one in Germany at a beer
That,
festival?
yeah. Well, I remember the Christmas market one.
It was a Christmas market.
Christmas market.
So this is the second one in Germany in 6 weeks. The guy drove a car into the Christmas market. I think that was also Munich, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it was in Germany.
It was. Well, it was definitely Germany. I think it might have been music. So this is the second car attack in Germany by a foreign national in 6 weeks. So you don't need an AR-15 assault rifle to kill or injure, several dozen people in under a minute, because we have more and more of these car attacks. And again, if you think you can stop a evil or crazy person from killing or injuring a dozen or more people in less than a minute just by denying them access to a particular type of gun, you probably think you can make a balloon smaller just by squeezing it in one place.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. If you can't think of several different ways to kill or injure a dozen or more people in under a minute without using a gun, you're not very bright. I'm not going to give people any ideas, but I've actually done this thought, uh, what do you call it? A thought experiment to say, okay, I want to kill or injure a dozen people in under a minute without using a gun. I came up with 5 different ways in
Yeah.
under a minute to do that. So, and again, you don't need to be a genius to do that. All right, you want to have a little fun?
Sure.
All right, so this is a girl. It's a TikTok video. She's playing both herself and her friend, and she starts off by pretending that she and her friends are both Republican, but she's telling her friend, who's also her, that she's decided to leave the Republican Party and become a Democrat. Hang on, here we go.
Okay. May I ask why?
I'm going to start that over again. Hang on.
I'm leaving the Republican Party. Okay. May I ask why? I don't agree with the policies anymore, and I'm leaning left. Okay. Well, although we can agree to disagree, I really respect you as a friend. I've enjoyed our friendship, and if you ever want to talk about politics, we can, but we don't have to. Thanks. I appreciate that. Of course.
Now here comes the other side. She's a Democrat telling her Democrat self that she's decided to become a Republican. Here we go.
I'm leaving the Democratic Party. Oh, so you're racist, homophobic, a bigot, and a sexist. What? No, I'm still me. It's just I don't align with your values anymore, and I find myself leaning more conservative. I mean, I never thought I'd say that. Well, we can disagree on politics, but we can't disagree on human values and human rights. I'm still me, the person you've known since third grade, and I really have enjoyed our friendship. Well, last time I checked, I wasn't friends with Nazis.
That is sadly such a true conversation that plays out every day.
I know, and I've actually seen it within my own circle of family and friends. It's just so true that you can't agree to that they just can't agree to
Yeah.
disagree. By the way, I always get mixed up between left brain and what which side of the brain is the logical one and which side of the one is the emotional, creative one.
So if the left side, I think it's opposite. So those of us, I think we're left-brained, and I think the like artistic free spirits are the right-brained.
Yeah, and so what and by the way, there is a study that by the way that showed that um the same that a vast majority of the people who are call themselves liberals are the same artistic they're
Yeah.
emotion driven
Yes,
and
I'm correct. Yeah, the left brain is the logical thinking,
right
and the right brain is the creative.
right creative emotional right
Yeah.
artistic right and that same study showed that the vast majority not a small majority but a very large majority of conservatives are left brain logical you know fact driven so there is a distinct
Mhm.
psychological, a documented psychological difference between left brain and right brain. And that's why I think, a Republican can say to somebody who said, I got to leave, I can't do this. I got to support Bernie Sanders. I've actually had friends tell me, I can't support Donald Trump. I just think he just turns me off. I'm gonna vote for Kamala Harris, or before that, vote for Joe Biden again. And I said, Bob, hey, I disagree, but okay, you got to do what you got to do. Hey, are we still going out for a drink Friday night? That's basically how the conversation would go. But you try it the other way around. If you're now, I've never been in a position where, since I'm not a Democrat, or I've had a Democrat, but my wife has had friends. Well, she has family members, one of whom, two of whom were Democrats, and one told the other that she was going to vote for Donald Trump, and she literally disowned her over a simple thing like, "You're voting for that racist Nazi pig. How could you do that?" And well, you're not my sister anymore. It's just crazy how they can react to something as simple as, I've changed my mind. I have to change I'm decided I'm going to switch and become a Republican or vote for a Republican candidate. Uh,
And we've had this discussion before, like and I think you'll agree with me on this. Like, I think Donald Trump's a bull in a china shop. I think he's just a grotesque human being, but
yeah, I
some of the things that he's doing, people are yes, some of them are very rash, but look what Biden was doing.
well, by the way, people, and I had to write this down. I don't want to write this down because people uh, said, "Well, you happy now? Has the price of eggs gone down?" Um, and I kind of stole this from somebody else, but hang on. I got to cut this. I have to stop this. Let me just pause this ad here. Um, and this is kind of why I voted for because people say, "Well, are you happy now? You got, did your price of eggs go down?" Blah blah blah. And so here's my rationale, and this is a little cleaned up little. So all the liberals who follow my page, the Jersey, keep posting comments about, well, you voted for cheaper eggs, cheaper gas, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not true. That's not why I voted for Donald Trump. I voted solely for the end of the liberal woke mind virus. I'm willing to pay $5 an egg to keep watching Donald Trump take a blowtorch to this whole diseased temple of thieves, traitors, and burn it to the ground and piss on the ashes. That's why I didn't vote for cheaper eggs.
Yeah.
I voted for Donald Trump to take a blowtorch to this wreck of a
I mean,
government.
he didn't cause avian flu or bird flu or whatever bird disease is going
Yeah.
around that's affecting,
Yeah, he's not the one who killed 50 million chickens. That
yeah.
happened on Biden's watch. But again, the price of eggs is what not why I decided to vote for Donald Trump. I voted for him to do exactly what he's doing. And if I have to pay $5 an egg over for the next year for that to come true, I'll happily do it. I'll just eat cereal instead of eggs. So anyway, that's why I voted for Donald Trump. Anyway, so let me go back to this study on liberal women, if I can find it. Um, do I
I
have to
believe
actually
he
play the
sent it
video?
to me too.
I know. Here we go. Continue. Hang on. Well, what it says is that liberal women are 3 times as likely as conservative peers to report frequent feelings of loneliness and unhappiness. Um, any thoughts on why liberal women are lonely and unhappy?
I'm not so sure that it's necessarily liberal women. I feel like liberals are just so angry in general, are just so angry right now.
Yeah, nobody wants to be around, and I know women like this that, they're angry and all they want to talk about is how evil Donald Trump is and, what bastards the Republicans are. I wouldn't want to be I don't want that negative energy. I don't want to be in the same room with those people. Never mind married to them. By the way, this
And
might be
again,
the
I
side
don't
over
think that
here.
is specific to women or single women.
All
It's
right.
liberals in general right now are just so angry at the world.
They are. And I don't want to be around angry people. And hang on, I think this is the study right here. Hang on. I may not play the whole thing.
Lonely a few times a week or more than that. So again, there's kind of a loneliness gap that we're seeing play out too for liberal versus conservative women in the country today. My name is Brad Wilcox, professor of sociology at the University of Virginia and a fellow at the Institute for Family Studies, and I study marriage and family in America. The General Social Survey, and it's called the American Family Survey, to kind of tell us that on average, conservative women are happier, and it's particularly true for married conservative women. But you see this across a number of different data sets in recent years. This is the American Family Survey. It's sponsored by the Wheatley Institute, and they work with YouGov to survey thousands of U.S. adults across the country.
Liberal, almost 3 times more likely.
And they tackle things like
lonely a few times a week or more than
status.
Again, there's
How family life is playing out in American life today. In this case, kind of how there's an intersection between happiness, loneliness, and marital status for younger women. So we see in this data basically is that only 31% of liberal women aged 18 to 40 are married compared to 51% of conservative young women.
Now, I want to repeat that statistic. Only 31% of liberal women age 18 to 40 are married, while I think it was 51% of conservative women. So that certainly goes a long way. And by the way, this guy's a PhD in sociology.
Mhm.
So that right there, that's a huge data point. If you're a liberal woman, your chances of being married. Now, maybe you're not married because of your own choice that you don't want to be married. But if you're not married, chances are you're going to be a lot lonelier than somebody who's married and maybe has kids and a family. So here we go. Can I get this to play?
That means
I'm
basically
going to back it up again.
Only 31% of liberal women aged 18 to 40 are married compared to 51% of conservative young women. That means basically the conservative young women are about 64% more likely to be married than their liberal female peers. And because we are social animals, and kind of being married, having a family is, I think, a source of enormous meaning and purpose for a lot of us. Just the fact that conservative women are more likely to be married and also kind of happily married as well, I think is a big reason why they're also more likely to be, satisfied with their lives in general as well.
And I'm going to pause it there. It goes on for another minute and a half, but you can read the whole study. We'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
But are you surprised by that study?
No, I'm not.
Do you know any angry liberal women?
Yeah, again, I just know a lot of just angry liberals, period, regardless of of sex, gender.
Yeah. So that was that little piece of data. Um, so you want to move on to science?
Yeah.
So we've talked, I know you know this, but we've talked before. So for those who are not familiar with nuclear power, 100% of the nuclear power in the world today is fission reaction. What that means is fission means the split. What that means is you take very big atoms like uranium, which are huge, like they're have an atomic number of 238, and you split them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you split a uranium atom into two smaller atoms, neither one of which are uranium, they're two smaller atoms, the the sum of those two smaller atoms weigh less than the original uranium atoms that they were split from. Well, what happens to that lost mass? Well, Einstein's equation for E equals mc squared says that energy equals, when you convert mass to energy, that energy equals the mass of the loss of the mass times the speed of light squared. And the speed of light squared is an enormous number. Speed of light is 186,000 miles per second.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, and when you split uranium, you still have radioactive byproducts. And so let's talk a little bit about the difference between the atomic bomb and the H bomb. A lot of people think the atomic bomb and the H bomb were the same thing. No, the atomic bomb was a uranium plutonium based bomb where you were splitting uranium and plutonium into smaller atoms and converting the lost mass into incredible amounts of energy that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but also a tremendous amount of radiation left over. Then in the 60s, we came up with the H bomb. Now, the H bomb stands for hydrogen. There is no uranium or plutonium in a hydrogen bomb. What you have is hydrogen. That is, you have two separate stockpiles of hydrogen that are smashed together. And when you smash hydrogen together fast enough, hard enough, and with enough heat, the hydrogen merges to become helium. So the atomic number of hydrogen is one. The atomic number of helium is 2. So when two hydrogens come together to form helium, unlike fission where you lose mass when you split them, in a fusion reaction, when you combine two elements, you also lose mass. And in the H bomb, when you smash those hydrogen atoms together to become helium, there's a net loss of mass, and that net loss of mass is converted into this incredible amounts of energy. So a hydrogen bomb is a fusion, meaning instead of fission where you split, fusion, you merge.
Mm-hmm.
So in a fusion H bomb, you're merging hydrogen into helium, and you get this incredible release of energy. The neat thing about it is there is no residual radiation in an H bomb, unlike an atomic bomb. Well, so the goal for the past 80 years has been to fuse hydrogen in a fusion reaction in a controlled manner. We've already done it. Every time you explode an H bomb, you have a fusion reaction that releases all this energy, but nobody's been able to do it in a controlled fashion because you don't want it blowing up. Well, last week, the Chinese sustained a fusion reaction of 100 million degrees Celsius, which is 6 times hotter than the sun, for 18 minutes.
Wow.
18 minutes, a controlled fusion reaction for 18 minutes. Now, that's early, but if they can continue to build and the rest of the world can continue to build on that research, there might come a time when we no longer have to have uranium-based nuclear reactors. Can you imagine every nuclear power reactor in the world being powered by good old clean hydrogen being smashed together to form helium?
Mm-hmm. That would be, and I knew the technology existed. We've talked about it on the show before, but like we said, it was not practical because it couldn't really be done large. It can't be done large scale
and controlled. And sustained.
Yeah.
But 18 minutes is incredible.
Yeah, it is.
So, and again, you don't have to mine for hydrogen. You have to mine tons and tons, actually hundreds of tons of ore to find, get 10 pounds of uranium. Hydrogen, you can buy it at the local welding supply house.
Mm-hmm.
Hydrogen is relative. So if they can keep building on that fusion reaction technology someday, maybe not in my lifetime, but maybe in your lifetime, we will see.
I see it. Now, I mean, because we have this the knowledge. We just have to refine the knowledge. I see hopefully in the next 20 years that this could be a reality for large scale use.
And I may not be alive, but I certainly hope it happens in your lifetime. So that's exciting. And again, the rate of which they're increasing this, 5 years ago it was 10 seconds. Now it's 18 minutes. So they're making leaps and bounds. All right, you want to hear about lawn darts?
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can find lawn darts. Here we go.
Message for the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Sir, I know you are very busy renaming Gulfs and banning paper straws, but there is one issue that you are gravely overlooking. I speak for all of America when we ask of you, we beg of you, sir, to reverse the 1988 ban on jarts. Sir, I can give you direct scientific information on how the banning of jarts in 1988 started the pussification of America.
The pussification of America. And by the way, the brand name was called Jarts. Lawn darts were called Jarts. And she's saying that was the start of the pussification of America. I'm going to back. Here we go.
Started the pussification of America. Banning of jarts represents the first time our country blamed an inanimate object for stupid people's decisions. And ever since then, it's like we're living in this timeline where Biff got his hands on the sports almanac. Once we banned jarts, we started putting safety labels on things and telling people which end of a chainsaw to hold. We stopped natural selection in its tracks. And now we're stuck with a bunch of stupid people. We used to throw really sharp-weighted objects at each other. And after that, we went down to steel rounded horseshoes. That wasn't soft enough. We had to go to washers. And now here we sit in 2025, throwing bags of fucking corn at each other. If you want to reunite the Republicans and Democrats and make us one again, let us throw jarts.
So what do you think?
This is, the whole, yeah.
By the way, you can't
eating Tide Pods and having to put ridiculous warning labels on stupid things. And the only reason why those warning labels are on there is because somebody was stupid enough to do something idiotic with it.
The warnings on hair dryers do not use in the bathtub. The thing on the windshield, sunscreens you put on, removed before driving car. Do we really need those things?
Survival of the fittest.
Right.
Darwin, there's the Darwin Awards, the annual Darwin Awards.
I know. So anyway, that was, and by the way, horseshoes, no more horseshoes. You got to throw bean bags. What do they call that thing where you throw bean bags at the hole in the?
Cornhole.
Cornhole. Yeah. No more horseshoes with steel horseshoes. Steel horseshoes are too dangerous. Anyway.
Jerzee Joe, we are running out of time if you want to move on to the taxpayer relief shot.
How much time we got?
We have less than 5 minutes.
All right, real quick. Here's why we call them taxpayer relief shots.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save taxpayers money.
All right, and this one comes to us from Detroit, where this woman has a violent, angry ex-boyfriend, and he comes to her house. Unfortunately, her brother, the woman's brother, is staying in the house with her, and here's what happens. Oh, hang on.
It was a volatile relationship that ended in homicide. Now Detroit police and prosecutors trying to determine if the shooting was justified.
7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig joins us live now from police headquarters with much more. And Kim, is the suspected shooter still in custody?
No, he is not, Carolyn. He was brought in for questioning. That's all we understand at this point, but it appears he has been released and a warrant has been submitted, I should say will be submitted to prosecutors, and they will decide if he faces any charges.
Breaking up the property, disturbing the neighbors, beating on her. We had to call the police several times ourselves.
Relatives say the man killed his 25-year-old D'Angelo Cordell, and according to Detroit police, he had been stalking his ex-girlfriend who lives here on Wabash near Selden. We're told it appears they have been on and off for months, and when things were bad, they were really bad. And just before 8 o'clock this morning, police say D'Angelo Cordell came over to his ex's townhouse with a gun, hopped out of his car, and broke into her home. And this time she wasn't alone. Her 32-year-old brother was also here, and he opened fire.
You have to protect yourself, because I would have hated to come out here and he would have did something to her, because she seems like she's a very sweet person.
The woman's brother went with Detroit police for questioning in what could turn out to be a killing in self-defense.
It's very sad that he had to lose his life to, you know, a relationship that he didn't want to break up, I guess.
And prosecutors couldn't make that decision on whether to charge in the next day or so.
The prosecutors would have to be an idiot to charge this guy. I mean, if you were on the jury, would you find this guy guilty of first-degree murder for shooting a guy that broke into his girlfriend's house armed with a gun?
Yeah, self-defense.
Self-defense, clearly self-defense. All right, we're running out of time. So you got anything you want to add before we sign off for this week?
No, I am looking for some slightly warmer weather, but I would like a good snowstorm.
All right, you and me both. All right. So I know we're running out of time, so I want to thank everybody who listened to this podcast for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about things I find of interest and importance. And I hope you found those topics as interesting and important as I did. And if so, I hope you continue to listen. If you want to see some of the materials and story links you heard us talk about today, you can find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerziejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey, J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E, Jerzee, jerseyjoe.com, no spaces. And if you want to send me an email with a comment, question, or suggested show topic, you can do that by sending me an email to joe@jerzeyjoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, Z, and two E's. And with that, producer Susan, anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
No.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you next week. Thanks for your help tonight. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.